Hello, guys, welcome to this podcast, Everyday Talkies, which ironically does not come out daily. I am Anshul and I talk about random things to random people, majorly about life, perspectives, and thinking process. It's like an interview, or let's say more of a conversation with one or two guests about random topics that interest us. To be really honest, it's just a way to reduce my inhibitions in talking to people. So come join me and enjoy. So today I have my roommate back again to be a guest in this podcast. Apparently, I could not find any new guests, so he has graciously accepted to be a repeated guest again. As usual, we'll call him Saru. And this time we decided we'll do something different. We'll not go too much into sci-fi.
No, we probably might end up like anything we talk about eventually leads to sci-fi. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Sci-fi has to be there in a conversation, then it seems really boring. But yeah, we'll try to refrain from that for this episode, bring some newness into this. But we were discussing about the recent YouTube videos that we were watching and that he wanted to discuss in this podcast. So I'll give him the platform, tell about his recent favorite videos that he has watched.
Okay, so my recent favorite videos goes to it starts from 2018, very recent. It's called On Companionable Silence. It's by the Vlogbrothers, who are like maybe you people might know. It's John Green and his brother Hank Green. John Green is a famous author. Like अंशुल तूने तो सुना ही होगा उसके बारे में.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you were a huge fanatic. You used to buy his books the day it was released, wait for the hardcover ones for some reason. But yeah, let's not get into that.
Okay, so what happened with that is, first of all, John Green writes very slow. So he's writing like one book every 5 years, and if he's writing one book every 5 years, then it's fine for me to buy hardcovers whenever it comes out because it's highly anticipated, right?
Yeah, but it's so off regular things that we read and talk about. It's so off the sci-fi genre. It's so opposite to what we discuss.
Yeah, but it's like an old love, you know. Even before Star Trek, I was like, and it happened very randomly because I had no idea who John Green was. I had no idea what The Fault in Our Stars was. I had just randomly bought uska book, which was Looking for Alaska, his first book. I just randomly bought and I started reading it, and by the end I was like full on crying properly. You know, so uske baad I just became a big fan. I've read like all of his books, and then I found out he has this YouTube channel with his brother. So they've been doing this for like the last 12 years, I think, where once a week one of them will make a video for the other person, and they'll upload it on YouTube so everybody can watch it basically. And it's so amazing. They've done so much stuff. Like they've started their charities, started various art projects, and they also do this side wala thing called Crash Course, which is do you know about Crash Course?
No, not really. What is that about?
Okay, so Crash Course is basically, it's a channel where they take a particular subject and they make like a 23 to 30 video cast series on that subject. So they will take biology, they'll take philosophy, they'll take physics, they'll take writing, they'll take computer science, they'll take AI, and they'll do like a proper crash course of 30 videos on it of like 10 minutes each, and it's amazing. If you need to cram for an exam, like I've crammed for a few of my papers from like crash course ka videos for like economics and stuff. Anyway, yeah, so but John, obviously, like when he makes videos, so many of his videos are they're very like connected to his writing. They're very like profound, and this particular video I picked as my favorite because On Companionable Silence is okay, so the context of the video is John with some of his friends went on basically a walk in the woods, okay, and it's full on raining and there's like streams everywhere. They're getting full on wet, and what they did was they went for a walk and they did not talk to each other at all. They quietly walked into the woods, and he describes like the whole video is basically him filming whatever they did in the woods. And he does not usually, what John does is he has voiceover for his videos, or he's directly speaking to the camera. But in this one he just has subtitles, and he lets the recordings of nature take over with just the subtitles. And he talks about how he wasn't really looking forward to it, but once they were there, once they were actually doing the walk, and like the conditions were semi-dangerous, so they had to be careful. And just being there, being with his friends quietly, in silence, walking, was probably like one of the best experiences he's had. And he talks about the meaning of life is to be able to be with each other in silence, which I think is an amazing thing. And I've had that with many of my friends, with you, with some of my other best friends, when we are like at each other's house at night, and we're just sitting somewhere balcony mein shanti ko raat ko. I can relate to that, and it's a very profound, beautiful, humane message. Just the way the video is made, I really like. There's a whole section where he just lets us see he records himself walking in the woods, and he just lets us be with him for like 10-15 seconds, and it's very nice.
Yeah, I think in this recent times, this is really required. The calmness and the silence is required amongst humanity.
If you're feeling alone, or if you're like tired of being locked inside your house, just go watch that video. You'll feel a lot better, because just the whole atmosphere of that video is like ASMR for you. It's amazing.
I watched it today when you recommended it, and it was really something which was very different but calming at the same time. And it was quite fun, though I have not read any of John Green books, but I can see why you like him, and I might take up on the offer that I might actually read a book. You never know.
No, even if you watch some of his videos, he has some really great videos. He has a video on loneliness, like how he feels lonely a lot of the time. He has a lot of mental health issues. Like he goes through depression every now and then, and he has to there's a lot of issues he talks about like that. Today he just released a video called I Am an Artist, in which he basically talks about, that was something I really needed to hear, that he said today, was when he was writing Looking for Alaska, which is his first novel, he talked to his then girlfriend, who's now his wife, about the thing. He told her he wants to be a writer and this and that, and she told him you are currently writing a book that makes you a writer, and which is the same thing he says in the video. For you to be an artist, you just have to do the thing. You don't need anything beyond that. If you're writing, you are a writer, which is such a good thing to hear from someone like him. So yeah, if you need some positivity, and if you need some beautiful stuff in your life, then go watch his videos. Even Hank's videos are amazing. Hank talks about weird animals and stuff. So yeah, go watch Vlogbrothers. They're amazing. And speaking of animals who lay eggs, let's move on to the next video.
Oh, that's a great segue. Better than I could have thought of.
It's a segue. It's not a very good segue, but whatever. Okay, so the second video I'm talking about is by Kurzgesagt. Okay, Kurzgesagt, something like that.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, weird channel name, but you go on YouTube and search The Egg by Andy Weir. Where do I even start with this video? So Kurzgesagt made an animated adaptation of this short story, and it's one of my favorite videos because, first of all, the guy who narrates all the Kurzgesagt videos, his voice is very soothing. So his voice reading the short story is amazing. Plus, just the short story, which it's very reminiscent of from a personal thing. When you sent me, you remember The Last Question by Isaac Asimov?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that story you sent me a long time ago. I don't remember, 2-3 years ago maybe, and I absolutely loved that story. And then when I saw this, the first thing I was reminded of was The Last Question. And also it starts off weird. It starts off in a place there's a person, or rather you. It says you were on your way home when you died. That is literally the first sentence. Okay, so no spoilers. The story is it's a speculative thing. What happens to you after you die? So Andy Weir says that when you die, you go wherever, to this ether kind of a place, and you meet God. And God goes on to tell you what happens after you die, and there's reincarnation involved, but he uses reincarnation as such an interesting way. because he says that he first of all puts up the theory that like time is non-linear where after you die. So once you die, you can be reborn as someone else maybe in the past. So why that? Should I give the whole plot away? Because I feel like I shouldn't.
No, I think it's okay because it's just a description. Because any which was, even if you reveal the entire plot, that video is equally interesting even after you know the story. Because I remember I saw the video after reading the short story, and I was still fascinated. I again watched it today evening, and again I was blown.
No, it's a beautiful shot. It's a beautifully animated video, and the thing is, like, you can watch. You can, even if I spoil the plot, which I won't, it's fine. You can still watch the video because for the writing of his writing, Andy Weir, like, he does such a good job of writing the whole thing. It's hardly even 2 pages maybe, and he does such a great job of conveying such a like grand idea. It's amazing. The story at its core is about why you should treat people better, or like why you should you should forgive people for treating you bad, or you should treat people better, because it gives a very empathetic view of the universe. And yeah, that's why I absolutely love that thing. And plus, it's great sci-fi. It does what every good sci-fi story does, which is like, it shows you something, it opens up your mind, it shows you something which you did not think was possible, but once you see it, you're like, oh, obviously, like, this makes so much sense. So yeah, The Egg by Andy Weir, it's a great story and it's a great video. Everyone should definitely watch it. It's only like 7 minutes long, I think. And yeah, it's amazing. And for the third one, okay, so since we decided to talk about our three favorite videos, but I couldn't find the third video as per se, I'll just talk about a whole channel. So many of you might know that there's this channel called CinemaSins, which is all about, it takes a movie and it basically points out all the mistakes and plot holes in that movie, it's a very cynical channel, and it makes fun of movies in a very derogatory way. But it did lead to this channel, which I'm going to talk about, which is one of the best channels on YouTube, at least for me. It's called Cinema Wins, and it's basically this one guy who he started out as a channel as like a reaction to Cinema Sins. And what he did was he used to take really bad movies and he would talk about them in the Cinema Sins type format, but instead of pointing out plot holes, or instead of sinning the movie, he would have a win counter and he would talk about every good and positive thing in a movie which might be really bad. So he would take something like I don't know, like Gods of Egypt, which is a really shitty movie, but then he would talk about all the good things in it, such as maybe it might be the costume design, the production design, maybe it was like the art, some of the art in it, some of the CGI which was good. He would talk about like tiny good things, and slowly as he became popular, he started doing more and more even good movies. And he, like, what he does is he takes a movie which is like requested movie, and he talks about all the good things that are in it. And I really like his philosophy towards movies, because he looks at movies in such a positive way, as something which is like, because a movie takes so much effort, so much effort is put into making at least like one single movie, that you have to appreciate, like, there'll always be something to appreciate in even the worst of movies. And when you take the best of movies, if you take something like, say, Into the Spider-Verse, which is already a really fascinating movie, but then you take it and he talks about all the things that went into making that movie such a good movie, and why it matters, that it enhances your experience of watching that movie. He does the same thing with like the Avengers movies. He does it with Knives Out. He does it with all the popular stuff. And his whole philosophy is liking things is simply better than not liking things, which is a really positive message to spread on the internet, which happens to be a really toxic place, especially YouTube or Twitter. So I really like his channel, because he spreads a lot of positivity in such a negative environment. If you're sitting at home with nothing to do, if you're feeling kind of bummed out, then you can watch his videos. And if you really like a movie, then you can watch his video on that movie, and you'll find out even more reasons to like it. Like, one of my favorite movies is Guardians of the Galaxy, and his video on Guardians of the Galaxy made me appreciate it even more, because of some of the things that even I never realized watching it, which he did. And yeah, so it's a great channel.
To anybody who is listening this, he is a huge fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. So when he says that the video said something which he did not know already, so now even I'll have to recommend, though even though I have not seen a single video of that channel, because I know how serious he is when he says the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, my seriousness, I'll tell you how much I love that movie. Like, I think it came out in 2014, and since like 2014, every year on my birthday, I watch Guardians of the Galaxy like without fail, or at least once a year. I end up watching that movie without fail.
So that's like a ritual for you now.
More or less, yeah.
Okay, so the ritual what actually reminded me that we had a major.
Kya segue. Oh my god.
It was organic. I didn't even plan this. This was organic.
It was very organic. It came out very nicely.
Okay, so the last time I had one topic that I wanted to discuss in our podcast that was more on philosophy and religion. But since we wanted to keep the podcast a bit short, we didn't indulge into that because that's a whole new realm altogether. So, okay, you were telling me how you had, I would not say roller coaster, but a very interesting journey while looking at the whole philosophical aspect of religion and spirituality as a whole. So, tell me about the experience that you had.
Yeah, but only if you tell me yours first.
For me, initially, I was a really huge devotee, I would say, because living in a joint family, I used to wake up early. I used to help my grandparents out in setting up all the religious customs or helping them out with all religious customs, and I was really ingrained. I watched all the epics, Hindu epics, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and all of that. But I don't know, at some point of time, for what reason, something clicked and I became a total atheist. I don't know, should I say total or not, because I have an open point of view. It's just that I find the religion, the way it exists in this world, really, I would say negative, to be put in a nice connotation. But yeah, I think that is what, and I don't believe that there is one supernatural being that I need to be afraid of or I need to pray to have a good life. I just believe in the concept of humanity, that if you just be good to people, that's it. You don't need to fear a supreme being or request him for things that you don't have in your life. That is one basic philosophy that I follow in general. And then there is a whole segment of hatred that I have for these superstitions which people follow blindly, and the religious customs which people follow. Like, I see in my house where people sacrifice their health to fulfill these religious customs, which I find really odd, because you pray to God to have good food, good health in your life, but while fulfilling those customs, you're hampering your own health. It's counterintuitive. I don't get it.
Yeah, perfectly valid point. And so, like, what about your turn to science, as you say, like your older brother or your older cousin introduced you to a lot of science books, like non-Christian science. Yeah. How much did that contribute to did that at all contribute, and how much did it contribute to your swaying away from religion?
I think that had a major contribution, obviously, because I would have never been more cynical of the facts. I would have never questioned the why behind the things. Basically, that is what those books taught me, in essence, to ask why, to ask the basic W's and the H's, the questions behind everything that's been taught to us.
It's really important.
It's a lot about me in this one podcast, but let's jump back at you.
Okay, so mine was pretty similar, but except my family, because it was like, it's kind of mine was a nuclear family, so we were not really that religious, and I wasn't, like, I mean, I was religious in the about average way that everyone, like every normal kid, is religious. So growing up, I would read like mythological stories about either this god or that god. We would visit a lot of temples, which was less about religion and more about my family was a lot into traveling, so we would visit like various places in India, and everywhere we go there's new temples to discover, because India mein tourists we only go to temples. They were a big part of my, like, religion used to be quite a big part of my life up until it was a thing. I don't know how it happened, but I strayed more towards Buddhism rather than straight out atheism. I don't think I've ever completely felt like atheistic, but it's never also been like a thing of I believe in some like actual entity called God, which is like this or that. As far as the stories about gods go, like maybe they're true, maybe not. Either way, they're very exaggerated. I think it's weird. I mean, I do think religion is important, because like religion can it can help a community. Like one of my favorite authors, who's another Green called Graham Greene, he writes a lot about religion. And in one of his books, he talks about, okay, have you heard this phrase called by Karl Marx, saying, religion is the opium of the masses?
Yes, I did read that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was reading one of Graham Greene's books, and in that he made a very interesting point. When Karl Marx said that religion is the opium of the masses, opium was not looked at as this, illegal, evil thing. Opium was actually a legal drug, which was used by the rich people as a kind of a luxury thing. Opium was like a luxury that rich people had, which they used as a tranquilizer. And so what Karl Marx was essentially saying, that religion for the poor is like opium. It's like their weed. Keeps them, tranquilized, because inherently he says that people cannot live without a tranquilizer. So, I kind of agree with him in the sense that everybody needs their own some kind of religion to live by. Otherwise they'll completely fall apart without some kind of belief, whether it be like scientific, whether it be you believe that there is like some god living in the sky, or whether Jesus turned water into wine, whatever it is, whatever miracle you believe in. Like for the longest time I used to think that Star Trek is my religion.
Oh, it is my religion as well. Please don't insult that. Don't go there.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Star Trek in itself is kind of mythology, except that instead of taking place in the past, it takes place in the future. If somebody told you that there was this, a great amazing figure with pointy ears who could read people's minds, and who could do no wrong because he was absolutely logical, you would think of him as a Jesus kind of figure who came back from the dead once. Yeah, so you would think of him as a godlike figure, but to us it's like he's Spock.
Yeah, I think like in this, I get it. That is why I tend to believe on the writings, that is these epics, to be more fictional than to be true. Because first of all, it's said that it is written by a human being. That is the first thing. And the second thing is, it's a really well written fictional book. So in a hypothetical scenario, let's say that the world is doomed and none of the current humans survive, and there are future generations, but they have no link to whatever happened in our history. Basically our history is lost in the crumbles of the world, and someday they dig up and discover the entire 8 or 7 part of Harry Potter series, and they might just believe that it's true, that actually happened. Probably I think Star Trek is bigger than let's say Harry Potter, so they might believe that human race was advanced enough to have a galactic presence rather than just their own world.
Yeah, obviously, like it's like I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen Galaxy Quest?
No, I've not.
Okay, so Galaxy Quest, it's a movie. It's a really good like sci-fi. It's a kind of a parody of Star Trek, but it also celebrates Star Trek. Okay, so the plot of Galaxy Quest is there is this inferior alien race which is being terrorized by this other alien race, and this inferior alien race, they need help, right? So what happens is one day they come across TV waves are broadcast into space. They come across these recordings of like an old Star Trek like TV show, and these aliens, because they're so kind of simple-minded, they think that the events that happen in the show are real, and that these people who are like the Starship ka crew are like really like mythic heroic figures, and they end up kidnapping these people and tell them, killing, we need your help. I won't talk about any more than that, but it's basically like that, right? What you were talking about. If it just so happens like if 1,000 years later, if humanity is extinct and some other alien race finds like recordings of Star Trek somewhere, they'll think that we were these amazing people, and there used to be Vulcans and Andorians, Denebulans, and they might think it's actual history.
That is what I actually meant. But I'm sad that you think that even in 1,000 years we won't even reach to the point that we are a space-faring race.
Hey bro, 1,000 is my optimistic view. I'm of the view like we'll be dead, we'll be extinct in 500 years even before we reach like Jupiter.
See, that's pathetic. Before I die, I want to at least see Mars colonization. I don't care what happens after that because I won't be there to experience it, but at least I want to see Mars colonization.
No way. Maybe you'll see the moon colonized, but Mars is too much.
Well, we'll see what happens till that time. But yeah, you were speaking about your whole religious and philosophical aspect. We diverted a whole lot.
Yeah, so as for like religion, as far as my thing goes, like I use religion as like a buffet. I take the things that I like and like that I think are beneficial to that are healthy, that are good, and I kind of ignore the rest, or I kind of not pay attention to the rest that much, because I think everybody should have their own personal religion. Of course, this doesn't mean ki you should like pick and choose only like the worst things from a religion and crusade in the name of that, as some people do these days. But yeah, it's important for people to believe in something better, like at least not like a god, but at least like a higher power, or the universe, or the magic of the cosmos, or like string theory. We need something to believe in.
I guess I understand where you come from. Like, I always had that belief that humans are curious in nature. So probably the early human race might have feared these natural calamities that happen and considered them as God. And I think we have references.
If you want to get into the whole nature wala thing, I definitely think that nature is a higher force and it should be considered as such. If you're going to have, like, there is this great poem by William Wordsworth where he says that if you have to have, like, there was a flower blossoming in the woods, and if you have to have a faith, that should be your faith.
It's actually very nice. At least following that religion will at least somewhere end the crusades that we are having right now. Having humanity, the basic essence, and love towards nature. I think these are the basic things that you should just follow.
Exactly. It's like you have to realize that you can't make sense of, like, we created God so that there could be something that would explain this universe. Okay, like if the universe is full of nonsense, then there must, like, we imagined a being who would make sense of the universe, like who would, like, if there is a god, then he made the universe for a particular reason, that it's not all just abstract, complete, like random chaos. As far as if you want to worship something, if you want to venerate something, if you want to devote yourself to something, then I think there is nothing better than nature to devote yourself to. Like, devote yourself to the preservation of nature, to the protection of nature, instead of going, like, doing 8 hours of puja in front of an idol.
Don't even get me started on the fake news that's circulating in the name of religion right now, that religion has ultimately found cure to the virus. Yeah,
that really
that is where I think it irks me. That is why I have this inherent I will not say hatred. I understand that people need to believe in something, but it should be sensible. It should not spread hatred.
No, definitely. Religion has, like, amazing power, and if that power is used in a negative way, it can be like one of the most harmful things on earth. So yeah, religion should be a very carefully dealt with topic, I guess. That's where we land, I think.
Well, it was so carefully dealt with that we spent our entire podcast discussing about that.
No, we could, like, talk about it. I didn't even get to, like, I had written in my chota notes ki, like, I had just written Dune.
So Dune is something that requires an entire episode for itself. I will not let it, get it finished in just 5 minutes, because I know you're upset that Dune got pushed another year.
I could cry this whole night about that.
So we will not even get to the topic. We'll save that for another week when I come back to you again, finding nobody else to record for my podcast. But yeah, to close this off, let's just say, you already talked about a lot of books. We have John Green, Graham Greene, and Andy Weir.
So he wrote The Martian, and he wrote that you were reading his book, na, The Moon or something, Artemis, right?
Wait, I didn't even get to that. No, I was planning to read that, but I didn't get to that one. But yeah, apart from these ones that we have already mentioned, to close this off, give, let's say, 2 or 3 recommendations on books that you have been reading. Let's not go into sci-fi again. I'm pretty sure people will kill us if we do that.
See, if you're stuck at home and you have nothing to do, go on your Amazon thing, Kindle thing, and get this book called Shogun by James Clavell. It's like a 1200-page book about like it's historical fiction set in like the 17th century Japan during the shogunate era, and it's amazing. It's got samurais, it's got politics, it's got a lot of swearing, and it's a lot of like full-on masala fun. So if you're bored, you should definitely read that. You'll have fun for like 2-3 weeks at least with like 1200 pages. And other than that, I've mostly been reading Graham Greene, but I just had this thought कि like tomorrow I think I'll finally start reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, that has been pending for quite some time.
Yeah, I bought that hardcover omnibus thing of like all the 5 novels, and I haven't even like picked it up since I bought it. So I think I'll start that tomorrow. Otherwise, if you want like random fun, you should read. There's a lot of good like Alistair MacLean novels. There's a lot of good. I don't know what else. I have a good library stacked up right now of like 70-80 books, so but they're all very like heady kind of books. They're like full of, I have like 15 Graham Greene books, I have 3 Kurt Vonnegut books, I have Infinite Jest and Dune and what else, Anton Chekhov and stuff like that. So which isn't like, it's fun for me, but it's not like pulpy fun like you can just read for hours and hours. You have to read like 5 pages and then stop and then think about it and then read 5 pages. So it's very slow.
I have one recommendation for pulpy fun. I think recently but I say the last few months, I was too much into these spy novels for some reason. I don't know why. Should I call them spy thriller? I guess probably thriller novels. So I was into the whole Robert Ludlum book phase, and Jean Le Carre.
Oh, John Le Carre, right. Yeah, dude, read John Le Carre. John Le Carre is a lot of fun. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is a great book.
So these were the few books that I was reading just to have that fun where you just pick up a book, spend hours and hours, because it's a really good page turner.
Yes. Same with James Clavell. You can take up, he has a lot of big thick books like Shogun is 1200 pages, Gaijin is 1500 pages, Taipan is like 800 pages.
Why do you have the page numbers remembered?
Because like Shogun was the biggest book I've read in my life too. Like 1200 pages, like it's not, come on. Of course I remember the pages, and Gaijin is 1500 pages and I haven't even touched it yet. So of course I remember they're like so big, but they're also like very easy reads. You can like read them in a week if you have to. Like if you have nothing to do, you can just read them all day. It's really fun.
So yeah, I think these are some book recommendations.
Yeah, by the time the next episode rolls around, I think I'll have finished at least one of the Hitchhiker's Guide books. So maybe we could talk about that.
Oh yeah, but you have been thinking of starting that book for a long time. I can't even be sure that you'll ever start that book.
No, tomorrow definitely I'm starting it. But like, I'm kind of afraid because I realize like I am writing a sci-fi novel, and if I start reading sci-fi now, it's gonna like seep into my novel, or it's gonna give me like mortal fear like how can I write anything? How can I ever write anything this good? If Hitchhiker's Guide is really good, then I'll be like, oh my god, what am I doing? Like, how can I write something this good? Why am I even writing a book?
Oh, Hitchhikers is a cult. If you are afraid that Hitchhikers will diminish your will to write your own book, then please don't start that book. Chalo, we'll decide that later. But as usual, thank you so much for being the guest again.
Thank you for having me.
And it's always been wonderful. I'll circle back to you again in a week when I find nobody, and we'll probably record another episode.
So maybe God will come and talk to you.
Oh, then it will be a whole 2-hour movie podcast.
You can create the new, Bhagavad Gita, but it's a podcast.
That would be more cooler, directly from the voice of God.
Yeah.
Chalo, we'll move on from here. And thank you again, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you to all the listeners. I'll catch up with you again soon with someone new and lots of interesting discussions. So, bye.